Okay. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Force over here, and welcome back the to another reading live stream. This stream will be the final part of the Suicide Notes reading streams. It has been a wild ride from beginning to end with this story, and I'm looking forward to reading it as well as some of these bonus things that they have at the end of the book. And so, just so that way we can just get right straight into it, well, let's just get right straight into it. Day 37. No one ever tells you that when your heart breaks, you can feel it, but you can. It feels like something has crumbled inside you, and the pieces are falling into your stomach. It hurts more than any punch ever could. You stop breathing, and for a while you can't remember how. When you finally do, it feels like your throat is closed up, like you're trying to suck air through a straw. I tried to kill myself because of what happened with Burke. Not Allie and Burke, me and Burke, during Christmas break. It really started a couple of months before that, I guess you could say. I had a crush on Burke. Actually, it's not even a guess. I did have a crush on Burke. Big time. When Bert first asked Allie out, I was happy for her. I knew she liked him, and she was so excited when he finally talked to her. Besides, it was just a movie. She even asked me to go along. She said it was so she wouldn't be tempted to do too much with Bert. She'd read in some magazine that guys will be more interested if you play it cool, and that the best way to do that is to go on group dates where you can't exactly climb all over each other without someone giving you a hard time about it. I was her group. The funny thing is, Burke didn't mind. The three of us went to a movie. I don't even remember what it was. Burke sat in the middle. Then I was right next to him, with Allie on his other side. He even shared his popcorn with me. It was like the three of us were on a date, although I didn't think about that then. I just thought it was cool of him. I remember reaching into the popcorn when about halfway through the movie. Burke reached out at the same time, and for a few seconds our fingers touched. I don't remember who pulled away first, but I remember feeling this strange sensation. I don't even know what to call it. A tickle maybe in my stomach. I put my finger in my mouth. I put my fingers in my mouth and sucked the fake butter off, like I was trying to find out what Burke tasted like. I didn't touch that popcorn for the rest of the movie. After that, Allie started spending more time with Burke. At first, they almost always asked me along. Then one night, Allie went out alone with him. She didn't even tell me she was going, but she called me when she got home. He kissed me, she said. She sounded all excited, like she just won $1 million. He did? I asked her. Why? What do you mean, why? Asked Allie. She laughed like it was the dumbest question anyone could ask. Because he wanted to. She told me all about it. They went for a walk. Burke bought them ice cream cones. He joked around, getting ice cream on her nose. Then he licked it off. And then he kissed her. I remember exactly what she said. His lips were soft like a kitten. I thought that was a really weird way to describe someone's lips. At the same time, I knew exactly what she meant. I tried to be excited for her, but the whole time I was telling her how happy I was for her, I was really thinking that I wanted it to be my nose Burke was licking ice cream off and me kissing his kitten lips. And the more I thought about that, the more scared I got. I think that was the first time I realized that I didn't just like Burke. I had a thing for him. After that, I didn't want to be around Burke and Allie. At least not when they were together. It was too much. Every time I saw Burke, I couldn't stop thinking about how much I liked him. He's got these amazing brown eyes and a killer smile. When he looks at you, you feel like he's really looking at you, if you know what I mean. I wanted him to look at me like that all the time. But of course, he was always looking at Allie. and she was always talking about him. To me. And there was absolutely no way I could tell her why I didn't want to hear it. So for a few months I was all crushed out on him and totally miserable. I got jealous every time Allie talked about him, or when I saw them holding hands or kissing. Then, right before Christmas, the three of us were at this party at Rebecca Miller's house. Her parents were out of town, which means we were drinking a little, or in my case, a lot. I think I had a couple of beers, which really does a number on your head when you're not used to drinking. The weird thing is that I felt happy and sad all at the same time. The more beer I drank and the more I watched Allie with Burke, the more confused I got. I wanted my best friend back, but I also couldn't stop wondering what it would be like for Burke to be as into me as he was into Allie. I never thought about another guy like that, or about anybody like that. The truth is, I didn't think about sex all that much, because when I did, it scared me. It wasn't until that night at the party that I knew why it scared me. When I realized what I was feeling, I thought I might be sick, so I went upstairs to the bathroom where no one would hear me. I knelt in front of the toilet and waited for everything to come up. I remember my head was spinning a little. I closed my eyes, but that just made it worse. So I hung over the bowl, staring at the water and feeling my insides churn. I didn't throw up though, and after a while I felt a little bit better. I stood up and looked at myself in the mirror. I hated what I saw. I wanted to punch the guy in the mirror in the face for being such a freak. It was like I wasn't even looking at myself. I was looking at someone I'd never seen before. Someone I didn't want to see ever again. That's when the door opened. I'd forgotten to lock it, and before I could say something, in walked Burke. He looked at me and smiled this big, almost drunk smile. "Hey man, you done?" I couldn't say anything, so I just nodded. "Cool," he said. "I need to take a major leak." He didn't wait for me to leave. He walked over to the toilet and unzipped and pulled himself out. I tried not to look, but I couldn't help it. I didn't even care if he saw me looking, but he didn't notice anything. When he was done, he turned around and looked at me while he zipped up. "You look wasted, buddy," he said, grinning again. He was standing right in front of me. Even drunk, he was beautiful. "This party is killer, isn't it?" he said. His breath smelled like beer, but I didn't care. "Yeah," I said. "Killer." I wanted to get out of the bathroom, but I couldn't leave. My feet wouldn't move. "Hey," said Burke. "There's something I want to ask you." My heart did this weird flip-flop thing when he said that. For a second, just a split second, I had this idea that he was going to ask me out. I don't know why, but I imagined him asking me to go to the movie or something. And the thing is, at that moment, I really wanted him to. I remembered the popcorn and his fingers, and that tingling feeling hit me again. "What?" I said, barely able to get the word out. Burke looked all serious for a second. "It's about Allie," he said. He sounded nervous, which wasn't like him at all. Burke doesn't get nervous. He's always cool. Then I got even more nervous, because I was imagining all kinds of things he could say next. Burke looked right into my eyes. Everything stopped while I waited for him to ask me his question. Then he said, "What should I get her for Christmas?" It took me a few seconds to understand what he'd said. When it finally registered, I was surprised at how sad I was. But I couldn't let him know that. I had to think of something to say. She likes clothes," I said. Brooke shook his head. "I'm not good at picking out that shit," he told me. "I can go with you," I said before I knew it. "We can pick something out together." As soon as I said it, I felt like a moron. What kind of guy tells another guy he'll go shopping with him? But all I could think about right then was how much I wanted to do something with Burke. Anything. Even shopping for his girlfriend's Christmas present. That's how I was thinking of Allie as his girlfriend, not my best friend. Burke laughed. Cool, he said, like it was the most normal thing in the world. Cool. Then he patted my arm. You're a cool guy, he said. My heart was racing so fast I thought I might be having a heart attack. And then I did it. I couldn't stop myself. And then I did it. I couldn't stop myself. Burke was touching my arm. We just made a kind of date, and I was suddenly happier than I'd ever been in my whole life. Before I even knew what I was doing, I leaned forward and kissed him right on the mouth. I remember thinking for the few seconds our lips were touching that Allie had been right. His lips were as soft as a kitten. He pushed me away, but not hard. Hey there, he said, kind of laughing. Don't get all gay on me. It's not like I asked you out or something. He laughed again. I didn't say anything. I've never been so scared in my life. Not because of what I thought he might do, but because of what I had done. I tried to think of something to say to him to make it all go away. Something to explain why I kissed him. But I knew there was nothing that could erase that kiss. I guess Burke saw that I wasn't laughing with him. He stopped laughing and his eyebrows wrinkled up. Like he just realized he'd been tricked. What's up? He asked. He stared into my eyes for a few seconds. Wait, he said then, pulling back and looking at me as if he'd never seen me before. Are you a fag? Now, I'd been called a fag before, but not in the way Burke meant it. Sometimes guys just say that, like, you're such a fag, meaning you're doing something lame. Burke meant something else, though. Suddenly, the word was the most dangerous word in the English language. Now, okay, let's explain this for a few seconds. Yes, a fag is like, well, the word queer is more known for in the old days as being weird. Fag, I guess, works in that way. I'm not entirely sure, but we'll roll with that. But now in modern day time, but also actually, hold on, before I go into modern day times, a fag was also short for a cigarette. So if someone were to say, I want to go smoke a fag, they're talking about the cigarette, not burning a gay person alive or anything. No, they're not doing that. They're just smoking a cigarette. But nowadays, a fag is basically a derogatory term in the American language. I don't know how it is anywhere else, but in the American language, it is basically it is more often used as a derogatory remark, as a derogatory term toward gay men, toward gay people. I don't know about lesbians, but definitely gay, but men who are gay. Anyway, back to the story. I tried to answer him. I, I really like you, I said. Burke stepped back. Holy shit, he said. He had this look on his face that terrified me. Holy shit, he said again. Burke, I said, reaching out to him. Burke, don't. He put his hands up, blocking me from getting any nearer. He shook his head. You are a fag, he said. He pushed past me and left the bathroom. A few seconds later, everything in my stomach came up. I puked all over the floor and all over myself. It felt like I was throwing up my heart. I was crying and couldn't breathe, and I wanted to be dead. I cleaned up the mess on the floor with some towels, but my clothes were still all dirty. I just wanted to get out of there. That's when I remembered that to get out I would have to go down the stairs and through the party. Allie would be there, and I knew that by now Burke would have told her what happened, what I was. I couldn't face her. I thought about going out the window, but I was still feeling like crap, and I was afraid I'd fall and make things even worse. Finally, I went into the hall. I stood at the I stood at the top of the stairs, listening to the people laughing below me. I imagined they were laughing at me, that Bertha told them all about how I'd kissed him, about how I was a fag, and that they thought it was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. I just knew they were all waiting for the big fag to appear so that they could make fun of me. There was nothing else to do. I went down the stairs as quickly as I could and went straight for the door. I didn't look at anyone, and prayed no one would stop me. And they didn't. That's the only good thing that happened that night. No one stopped me. I made it to the door and out of that house, and then I ran home and up to my room. I haven't seen Allie since then. I've talked to her, though. When I didn't hear from her for 3 days, I knew that Burke had told her. On Christmas Eve, when I couldn't take it anymore, I called her. When she answered, I said, "I just want to say Merry Christmas." She didn't say anything for a while. I could hear her breathing. Then she said, "Why didn't you tell me you were gay?" "I'm not," I said. "Allie, you have to believe me." "I thought we were friends," she said, and hung up. That's the last thing she ever said to me. So now you know the whole story about why I'd gone all dramatic on New Year's Eve and why I'm here. I'm gay. I know it sounds stupid. Tons of people are gay, and you'd think it would be no big deal. But I was really hoping I wasn't. That it was all just a big mix-up, and I'd get over it. After the stuff with Renton and what happened, or didn't happen, with Sadie, though, I know that I won't get over it. It's what I am. I read once that a third of all gay kids try to kill themselves. They say it's because being gay is so hard in this world. They say that we won't stop trying to kill ourselves until more people understand us, and until we live in a world where it's okay for a gay to love another for a guy to love another guy. That's probably true. But there will never be a world where it's okay to fall in love with your best friend's boyfriend. Day 38. So now we've established that not only did I try to kill myself, but that I'm gay too. That's like having 2 cherries on your dog crap sundae. Or extra nuts. And now, of course, it's all Cat Poop wants to talk about. I didn't mean to spin on my page there. Today he asked me to tell him more about what Rankin and I did together. It was completely embarrassing to talk about. Then he asked me how I felt about having sex. I told him it felt great, but that the best thing for me was thinking that Rankin wanted to do those things with me. It wasn't the sex, really. I mean, you can kind of do that on your own, right? But having this other person want to do it with you, that's pretty special. It means he likes you. At least it should. I keep wondering what Rankin was thinking when he did those things with me. Had someone done those things to him? Is he really gay? Did he like me at all? I guess I won't ever be able to answer those questions. I asked the doc, and he said that when people hurt us, the best thing to do isn't to ask why they did it, but to remind ourselves that it wasn't our fault. In other words, either he doesn't know what Rankin's deal is or won't tell me. Either way, I'm not sure I believe him. Maybe it was partly my fault. It's not like I made Rankin stop. It's not like I didn't like what we did. It's not like I didn't want to do it. At least some part of me wanted to. To change the subject, I asked if Martha was going to be okay. Martha hasn't said anything since that night. Not even Frex. And I worry that she's totally regressing, which is a term I learned from cat poop. Basically, it means that whatever good has happened to her might have been erased by what happened with Sadie. I love how shrinks have a special word for everything that could be wrong with you. Cat Poop said he didn't know, but there was something in his voice that made me think he didn't believe she would she would be alright. I wanted to ask him more about it because I figured it had something to do with why she's here in the first place. But I knew he wouldn't tell me anything, so I just said I hoped she would be okay. I found out later, though. I asked Frank. Like I said, Frank can be kind of a jerk, but he likes to think he knows a lot, so when I saw him later on, I started talking about how awful what happened to Sadie was. Martha was really upset about it, I said, knowing he would want to tell me everything he knew about it. Yeah, well, can you blame her? Said Frank. She probably thought it was happening again. Thought what was happening? I said. He laughed again. Oh, right. They don't let you listen to the news in here. Kid's dad shot her mother. Martha's dad? I said. Blew her open with a shotgun, said Frank. Then killed himself. The kid saw the whole thing. When they found her, she was sitting there between them on the kitchen floor, holding that damn stuffed rabbit. She'd been there 2 or 3 days. All until something went over after she kept calling and getting no answer. You're kidding, I said. It's all over the papers, said Frank. I forgot, they only let you look at the funny papers, he said. Funny papers, get it? I ignored him and walked away. All I could think about was Martha sitting in that kitchen. No wonder she flipped when she saw Sadie. Poor kid. And I thought I had problems. If we're keeping score, I think Martha just pulled way ahead of the rest of us. Day 39. I was sitting in Cat Poop's office when all of a sudden I asked him, how do I know if I'm really gay or not? It just popped out of my mouth, but once it was out there, I really wanted to know. Cat Poop leaned back in his chair and looked at me. What's your favorite color? I told him it was blue. Then he asked me why. Why what? I asked back. Why is blue your favorite color? He said. It seems like a dumb question, right? I mean, why do you like anything? I told him I like blue because when I look at blue things, they usually make me feel good. Okay, he said. Now what's your favorite song? I told him it was Lonely Dreambox's Snow Cold Sunday. At least right now. I'm sure next week it'll be something else. That's how it is when you're 15. He asked me again why it was my favorite. I said because whenever I hear it, I want to sing along. I picture myself on a stage, singing, and it makes me feel good. Okay, he said. What do your favorite color and your favorite song have in common? The answer is that they both make me feel good, although in different ways. That wasn't too hard to figure out. But then he asked, how do you feel when you think about girls? That seemed like a trick question to me. There was a lot of different ways to answer it. So I asked him to be more specific, and he asked how I felt about girls when I thought about going out with them, like as a boyfriend. I said I didn't really feel any particular way about it. It didn't make me feel good or bad. Sort of like vanilla ice cream, I said. Then he asked me the same thing about guys. I got kind of embarrassed because I'd never talked with anyone about how guys make me feel. But finally I said that when I think about going out with a guy, it makes me feel all kinds of things. I feel excited and scared at the same time. Sometimes we don't know why we like certain things, Cat Poop said. Or at least we can't put into words why we like them. We just know that we do. Being gay or straight, or something in between, is often like that. We just like one thing or another because of how it makes us feel. That still didn't answer my question, and I said so. I asked him how I would know for sure that I'm gay. Maybe it's just something I feel right now, I said. He said that maybe it was, which didn't make me feel any better. The only thing you can do is listen to your feelings, he said. If you're honest about what you feel, you'll know what's true about yourself. I swear, sometimes he's like one of those weird old guys in martial arts movies who show up and say all kinds of crazy crap that the hero has to figure out so he can find the sword or save the girl or kick the bad guy's ass. You know, like, find the whistling pine tree and ask it for the key or something. I guess I know what he means, though. It was like the night I was with Sadie, when I knew I couldn't have sex with her. It just didn't feel right. Yeah, maybe it would feel different with another girl, but I don't think so. With Rankin, I knew. Even though he wasn't the right guy, being with a guy felt right to me. Everything about what we did was scary and weird, but I knew it was what I wanted. Not with Rankin, and definitely not here, but someday with someone else. Someone I like. Then Cat Poop brought up the idea of telling my parents. I said I wasn't sure if I could do that or not. So you've never talked about it with them? He asked. We don't talk in my family, I said. We assume. What do you mean by that? He said. I mean my parents assume, I explained. They assume that Amanda and I will ask them if we have any questions about anything. Otherwise, they assume it's all good with us. And do you ever talk to them? I gave him a look. You've met them, I said. What do you think? Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think my parents have any gay friends, or at least none that I know of. So I don't really know how they feel about the whole gay thing. I think it's different when it's your kid you're talking about and not some stranger. I know my mother is all into the idea of having grandkids someday, and my dad teases us about how he's going to screen everyone Amanda and I bring home when we start dating. I can't exactly see uh, him sitting my date down and asking him what his favorite football team is. I asked Catpoop if he would tell my parents if he was me, and of course he said he couldn't make that decision for me. I figured he would say that, but it was worth a shot. So then I asked him if he had any advice on how to decide whether or not to do it. You could practice telling them, he suggested. You mean walk through it in my head? I said. No, I mean with me, said Catpoop. You don't look much like my mom, I informed him, even without the goatee. He smiled. I could play your dad then, he said. I don't know, I told him. That's kind of weird. Well, think about it, he said. So now I'm thinking about it. I'm managing sitting down with my parents and actually saying, I'm gay. And you know what? It makes me a little mad. I mean, straight guys don't have to sit their parents down and tell them they like girls. Everyone just assumes that they do. But if you're gay, everybody makes this ginormous deal out of it. You practically have to hold a news conference and take out an ad in the newspaper. Why? Just because it's not what most people do? That doesn't seem fair. Why should my parents know? So they can get used to the idea of not being a daughter in to have of not having a daughter-in-law? So they can practice imagining me walking down the aisle with a guy? I don't get it. Why is it that you have to warn people about who you are? Why can't it just be something that happens? I know why. I'm just blowing off steam. It's a lot of pressure. Telling someone something like that. It's like you're committing to it. Mom, Dad, I've thought about it a lot and I've decided I'm gay. You've read all the brochures and comparison shopped, or finally decided what college to go to. Only if you're wrong, you can't exactly get a refund or switch schools. Well, I guess you could, but then you've gotten everyone all excited for nothing. Day 40. Funny, Rankin has been gone for almost a week, and nobody has asked where he is or what happened to him. I asked Catpoop about him today, but all he would say was that Rankin had been transferred somewhere else, like he got a new job or something. He also read me Sadie's suicide note. I didn't even know she'd left a note. Catpoop said he'd waited for some time to go by before telling me, so that I wouldn't be as upset about it. I told him that it was big of him. So he read it to me. It was his voice talking, but what I heard was Sadie. "Hey everyone," she said. "I guess by now I know I won't be around anymore. Maybe some of you will miss me and maybe some of you won't. I'll miss you guys. It's been fun, but it's time to go. No one can save me this time. Not even Sam. I'll see you all on the other side, I guess. Love, Sadie." That was it. Nothing about why. Nothing about what was going on in her head. Nothing about me. "What the hell kind of note is that?" I said. "She didn't say anything. It's just stupid." Then I got mad. Really mad. "Who does she think she is?" I asked Catpoop. "She goes and kills herself, and all she has to say about it is, 'See you on the other side'? That's completely fucked up." "Maybe it's all she could say," said Catpoop. "Maybe she didn't really know why she was doing it." "How can you not know?" I said. "Why do you think she did it?" he said, pulling the old answer in the question with a question bullshit. "The thing is, I didn't know, but I was afraid I did. I was afraid it was because I couldn't sleep with her. I was afraid it was because she felt rejected, the way I did with Burke, and with Allie. If that was true, then I know why she wanted to kill herself. I know exactly why." "What are you thinking?" Catpoop asked me. I couldn't say it. I just couldn't. If I said it, I knew it would be true. But as long as I kept it inside, as long as it was a secret, it couldn't be. "You're afraid it was because of you?" God damn it! I don't know how he does that, but the doc always manages to ask you the one question you really didn't want him to. I nodded, but I still didn't say it. I didn't let it out. Finally, when I couldn't stand it anymore, I said, "Do you?" When he shook his head, I almost threw up. "No," he said, "I don't." "Then why the fuck did you ask me?" I practically yelled. I always say fuck when I'm really pissed off. Otherwise, I think it kind of ruins the effect. But right then, I was really pissed off. Fucking pissed off. "Because I had a feeling you might be thinking that," he said. I glared at him. "You're a real asshole," I said. "You know that?" He ignored me. "There's something else," he said. "She wrote a poem." "A poem?" I said. That was totally not a Sadie thing to do. Catpoop handed me the letter. Down at the bottom, after the note, Sadie had written, "7 little crazy kids come chopping up sticks. One burnt her daddy up, and then there were 6. 6 little crazy kids planning with the hive. One tattooed himself to death, and then there were 5. 5 little crazy kids on a cellar door. One went all schizo, and then there were 4. 4 little crazy kids going out to sea. One wouldn't say a word, and then there were 3. 3 little crazy kids walking to the zoo. One jerked himself too much, and then there were 2. 2 little crazy kids sitting in the sun. One took a bunch of pills, and then there was 1. 1 little crazy kid left all alone. He went and slit his wrists, and then there were none." "So this is what we were to her," I said. "Just a list of problems." "I don't think that's it," said Catpoop. I think she wanted to believe that you all had something in common. Being crazy? I said. He nodded. It probably made her feel better about herself. Maybe so, but it doesn't make me feel any better. In fact, I'm even madder at her than I was before. I'm mad because she turned out to be such a phony. She wanted me, and everyone else, to think she was so cool and nothing could bother her. She wanted us to believe that she really had it all together. And we did. Or at least I did. But she wasn't together. She wasn't cool and strong and smarter than everyone else. She was afraid. She was afraid we'd all see the real her one day and that we wouldn't like it. Well, I don't like it. I don't like that she lied to me and made me think she was someone she wasn't. I don't like that she pretended to be cool with everything but was really running away. I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that I want to be sad about her dying, but I can't because I'm too mad at her. First Allie and now Sadie. They both left me. And even though Sadie never said it, part of me still wonders if it's because I'm gay. Allie couldn't handle it. Maybe Sadie couldn't either. So now it's just me, Juliet, and Martha. The last three little soldier boys. I guess everyone waiting behind the velvet ropes to get in decided to go a different club or something. Tonight after dinner, me and Juliet were sitting at the lounge. I didn't know why, but I asked her, did you like Sadie? Juliet put down the book she was reading. I liked her the way you like a hurt dog, she said. What do you mean? I asked her. You feel sorry for it and you want to help it, but you're not sure it won't bite you when you're not looking, Juliet said. Now, I know Juliet says some weird stuff, but sometimes she gets it exactly right. Like occasionally her craziness goes away long enough for her to really see you. I knew what she meant. Sadie was kind of like that. She was always wagging her tail and making you think she liked you, but I'm not sure she really liked any of us any more than she liked herself. What about Rankin? I asked Juliet. She shook her head. I never liked him, she said. Did you? As far as I know, she doesn't know anything about what happened with Rankin and me. I think only Mooney, Goody, and Carl know, and I don't think they would say anything. I guess they've seen so many crazy things that they forget about them pretty fast, or at least get really good at pretending to. I shrugged. I thought we were friends, I told her. But I guess I didn't like him. Not really. Why would you be friends with someone you didn't like? Juliet asked me. For a second she reminded me of cat poop and I pictured her with a pad and pencil. Sometimes you don't know you don't like someone until you've been around them for a while, I said. I do, said Juliet. I can always tell if I like someone or not. I asked her how. I get itchy when I'm near them, she said. I think I'm allergic to dangerous people. Ramkin made me itch. You might think she's just nuts, but it makes as much sense as anything else. I mean, how do you know if people are good for you or not? It's not like they came with an FDA approved sticker or anything. That made me think about Allie again and whether or not we are still friends. It's not like this was our first fight. It was just as a lot more serious than other fights we've had. What if she calls and apologizes for dumping me? Would I forgive her? Man, that's a hard one. It's not like we just had a fight over what movie to go to. She cut me out because Burke told her I kissed him. She didn't even stop to ask me if it was true. But it was true. That's the thing. If she'd asked me then, I would have said Burke was lying and that I was joking around with him. I would never have told her that I was gay, because I couldn't even tell myself that I was. So she was kind of right. Not to break down our friendship was the way she did. was the way she did, but about being angry. I don't even know if she was angry about me, maybe being gay, or me kissing her boyfriend. She never gave me the chance to ask. I know Allie pretty well, and I don't think she'd stop being my friend because I'm gay. If I had just told her, things might have been different. Now I don't know if I'll ever get that chance. Hey, Daniel Barry. How you doing tonight? Day 41. I'm pretty sure I'm gay, and I'd like to find out more about what that means. My dad was really quiet for a while. Then he said, "You're too young to know something like that." It wasn't my dad. It was Cat Poop. Today I had my dress rehearsal with him. My dress rehearsal for telling my parents about myself. I decided last night that I would do it. I mean, if I'm going to go to all the trouble of being gay and everything, I might as well tell people. Cat Poop offered to be both my dad and my mom, but the idea of my mom needing to shave really didn't work for me, so I told him we could just stick to my dad. Besides, I think my father will be the hard one to deal with anyway. Dads usually are. So he sits in the chair across from me, and I try to start. Only I can't think of anything that doesn't sound dumb. I'm, I have something to tell you. Just I have something to tell you. Just sounds like bad soap opera dialogue. There's something you need to know about me. Is even worse. Like you're, like you're about to announce that you have leukemia, or to a, or to a, or are a secret agent or something. Really, everything sounds way too dramatic. I finally said, "I want to talk to you about why I hurt myself." Then I explained about Allie and Burke and how I was afraid of the feelings I had for Burke and about how Allie had stopped being my friend because of it. That's when my dad said the thing about me being too young to know what I want. I was a little shocked at how hostile he sounded. Then I remembered that Cat Poop was playing a part. He didn't know how my father would really respond, so he was trying one possible way to see what I did. "I know I'm young," I said, "but I also know how strong these feelings are, and I think I need to see what they mean." It didn't sound like me at all, but it was true. Besides, parents like it when you talk like that. It makes you sound more like them. Although now that I think about it, maybe that will just scare them more. "You just need to see a shrink," said Cat Poop Dad. "That will fix you." I wanted to laugh, but the dog looked really serious. I tried to imagine my dad really saying that. I don't think he ever would, but it scared me to think that he could. I said, "I have been seeing a shrink, and he's helped me understand a lot of things about myself. I'd like to keep talking to him if it's okay with you, but I don't think I need to be fixed. I just need to talk about some stuff." "What am I going to tell your grandmother?" asked Cat Poop. "What am I supposed to tell people?" I took a deep breath and faced him. "Tell them the truth," I said. "I'm not ashamed of myself. If you are, I'm sorry. But I don't think there's anything for you to be ashamed of." Cat Poop nodded. "Not bad," he said. "Shall I try a different reaction?" We went through some more scenes, or whatever you'd call them. Sometimes my dad was okay with what I had to say, and other times he was angry. By the time we were done, I was exhausted. I don't know how movie stars do the same scene over and over like that. It takes a lot out of you. Cat Poop asked me how the different reactions made me feel. I told him that, obviously, the ones where my dad wasn't upset were the best. Then he asked me which one I thought was most likely to happen. I wish I knew. I really do. But I don't. How you'd think that after living with these people for 15 years, I'd know a little something about them. But right now, I feel like I don't know my parents at all. I guess when you get down to it, I've never really thought about them as a people. They've always been my parents. Now I have to think about them as people with feelings. What a pain. The funny thing is, I bet they feel like the same way. I bet they sit around at home wondering how to talk to this kid who looks like their son but acts like someone they've never met in their lives. In a way, that makes me feel a little bit better. It's like we're all going to find out who we are. But it's still scary. I'm still worried that there's a tiny, tiny chance that they'll completely flip out and disown me. We'll find out on Sunday. Day 42. Someone new arrived today, so apparently our nut house is still the hottest club in town after all. He says his name is Squirrel. I can't imagine anyone would name a kid that, but it's what he wants to be called. And it sort of fits him. He's really skinny, and he darts his eyes all over the place when he's talking, like he's afraid that if he looks right at you, you'll explode. We met him in group today. As the rest of us introduced ourselves, I couldn't help thinking about my first day. Did I look as freaked out as Squirrel did? Probably. Then again, I had Bone, Alice, and Sadie in my group. That would freak anyone out. Squirrel just has me, Juliet, and Martha. I don't think any of us are all that scary. Well, maybe Juliet is, but once you get to know her. But only once you get to know her. Even then, she's not so bad. I don't know what Squirrel's problem is. He didn't say, but if I had to guess, I'd say he probably got a couple of things going on. Maybe drugs. Maybe depression. Maybe both. You kind of start to catch on to this stuff when you've been here a while. It's almost like every problem has a different smell. Squirrel smells that combination of cigarettes, ashes, and cotton candy. It's not pretty. I wonder if everyone knew right off that I'd tried to kill myself. I mean, I did have bandages on my wrists, so it wasn't like it was a total mystery. They didn't know about they didn't know about the gay thing though. They couldn't see that. Except maybe Rankin. Maybe he knew. Why else would he have done what he did? Sure, I was the only other guy here, but would he have? But would he have done that with Bone? Did he do that with Bone? I think he probably would have if he had the chance. It's not like he was in love with me or anything. It was just something he did. I didn't mean anything to him. Then again, he didn't really mean anything to me, either. So I guess that makes us even. Funny. I fooled around with a guy I didn't care about. And the one guy I have cared about would never even think about touching me. Sometimes I wonder if Burke does ever think about me. I mean, he and Allie must have talked about what happened. I wonder if he ever imagines what it would be like if we did do anything. I mean, I've wondered about what it would be like with Allie even though she has, she's a girl. And since Burke knew I like him, and since Burke knows I like him, wouldn't he, wouldn't he have to think about it? Or is the idea of it so disgusting that he can't even imagine it? I wonder if Allie thinks about what it would be like if to have sex with me. That's a little harder to imagine, but I know Allie. She dwells on stuff. Forever. Letting go is a foreign concept to her. 3 years ago, Meg Crenshaw made a comment about how a sweater Allie wore made her look like a Sunday school teacher. Allie still hasn't forgotten it. I honestly don't know what I'm going to do about that. Not about the sweater, about how Allie feels. Now that it's totally up to me. Allie has a say in it too. So does Burke, I guess. It sounds weird, but I really don't think I care what he thinks of me anymore. Allie is more important to me than he is. But I am more important to her than Burke. Wait, but am I more important to her than Burke? I guess I wouldn't blame her if she picked her boyfriend over me. I'd be really pissed off, though. Anyway, back to Squirrel. I talked to him but a little bit this afternoon. He's still on the wonder drug, so I don't think it's quite sunk in yet that he's in a psych ward. Part of us wanted to tell him. Then I remembered how cool it was to be surrounded, to fly around in space smelling clean air, and I decided not to. Instead, we played Monopoly. I know it's the most boring game in existence, but it's good for killing time, and you don't want to have to think too much about it. So, Joe, Juliet and Martha played too. Jo- Juliet and Martha played too. Juliet was the top hat. Martha was the little dog. I was the shoe, and Squirrel was the race car. Martha won. She bought up all the rent apartments and set up hotels there. Then that wiped the rest of us out. For someone who barely says anything, that girl is one tough landlord. When I couldn't pay rent on Indiana Avenue, she made me give her Marvin Gardens and the Reading Railroad. She's like a little Donald Trump, only with better hair. Afterward, the four of us sat down. Afterward, the four of us sat there watching the snow fall outside. For some reason, I counted, and I realized that I'm getting out of here on Valentine's Day. That's kind of ironic, don't you think? I mean, I ended up here because I was all heartbroken over Burke. Now I'm getting out on the most romantic day of the year. Maybe I should make Burke a Valentine. Just kidding. I'm so over him. Sure, he's cute and nice and funny. Okay, so maybe I'm not totally over him, but there's that whole being straight thing. It's kind of a problem as far as he and I being boyfriends go. Besides, I don't think it was really him I wanted. It was the idea of him. I saw how happy he made Allie. Makes, uh, makes Allie. Present tense. At least I assume they're still together. Maybe someday I'll have a boyfriend and to give a Valentine to. Thinking about that kind of makes me sick, actually. I'm not exactly romantic, you know? And did you know that Valentine's Day originally started when this emperor, like a million years ago, made marriage illegal because he thought it would make soldiers weak? This priest, Valentine, married people in secret anyway, and he ended up having his head cut off because of it. So the first Valentine was some guy's head. There's some history for you. It's sort of perfect when you think about it. Isn't falling in love a lot like losing your head? That's a good question, isn't it? Day 43. If you ever have to tell your parents you're gay, there's only one thing I can promise you. However you think they'll react, they won't. I try not to think about it too much, but I was awake almost all night doing exactly that. I kept running through the different scenarios that I had rehearsed the other day with cat poop. What actually happened wasn't like anything we did, though. Well, it was and it wasn't. It was more like a little bit of everything we did. Things started off kind of badly because my parents were late. I don't know why, but they were arguing about it. They were arguing about it when they got here. Something about my mother not being ready on time or my father having to stop for gas. It doesn't matter. It's just that they were already in a weird mood. Oh, and they brought Amanda with them, which was actually kind of good because I wanted her to hear what I had to say too. So my parents are kind of bickering, not really fighting, but being snappy with each other. Amanda was sitting there rolling her eyes the way she does when she's completely embarrassed for people to know that she's related to our mom and dad, and I was trying not to throw up. Cat Poop started things off by reminding my parents that I would be coming home soon, as in 2 days. That snapped them out of their moods a little bit. My mother got all smiley, and my father kept nodding, like someone had asked him a question, and he was answering yes. Amanda hunched down in her seat, chewed on the ends of her hair, and tried to disappear. I think she's about at the end of her patience with my parents. It's good that I'm coming home and to distract them. Then Cat Poop started talking about how well I've been doing in the hospital and how much progress we've made. It was all doctor crap, and I knew he was saying it to make me look healthy and not crazy before. I dropped the big bomb on everyone. I was glad I dropped the big and not crazy before I dropped the big bomb on everyone. I was glad he did it because my parents are really into what doctors have to say about stuff. One could tell them that their heads were made out of blue cheese and they'd probably buy it. One Swede established the fact that I wasn't going to go all Amityville horror on them and kill them in their sleep when I got home. Cat Poop asked me if there was something I wanted to tell them. That was my cue to spill the news. Only I couldn't even remember my name right then. It was like everything had gone blank inside my head. I turned to my dad and just started nodding like I was agreeing with something he had said. I was like this giant bobblehead doll sitting there in this chair nodding, nodding, nodding. Because I wasn't saying anything, my mother started talking. She talked about the new curtains she'd put into my room, and about how much the dog missed me, and how my grandmother was making cookies, chocolate chip cookies, and was going to bring them over when I came home. I sat there and watched her mouth open and close, wondering how she could talk so fast and still breathe. Then my father started talking too, saying stuff to my mother like, "Marjorie, Jeff doesn't care about the curtains." And to me, "How do you like to go skiing next weekend?" Next weekend. They were both talking They were both talking at once. Captain was trying to interrupt them, but they were ignoring him. The one not talking besides me was Amanda. So I looked at her and said, "How would you like to have a gay brother?" Then everyone stopped talking and stared at me. Amanda stopped chewing her hair and sat up. "That would be okay with me," she said. "Why?" "Because you do," I told her. My mother gave a little gasp. Amanda sat there with her mouth open. My father said, Sweet Jesus Christ on a biscuit. I swear to God that's what he said. Sweet Jesus Christ on a biscuit. You're gay? Amanda said, really emphasizing the gay part so that it sounded like the longest word anyone had ever heard. As in gay? Yeah, I said. I'm pretty sure I am. My father said the thing about Jesus on a biscuit again, and my mother said, Eric. She's like he was 5 years old. Then she shook her head and said, I don't understand. What do you mean you're gay? I thought for a second I was going to have to explain to her what gay means. Then I realized she thought I was joking or confused, or maybe both. I guess she thought maybe I didn't know what gay meant. I'm I'm gay, I said, not sure how else to say it. You're 15, she said. You can't... Hello, Lion Blade, how you doing tonight? Also, when I said Eric, I'm reading the book. I'm talking about the book character, the dad in the book named Eric, not you. Just saying. You're 15, she said. You can't be gay. Sure you can, Amanda said. She sounded all excited, like this was her big chance to show off something she knew that my mother didn't. My friend Katrina from dance class's brother is gay and he's 15. She looked at me. Hey, maybe I can set you guys up. Evan is really cute. Jeff, my mother said, using the tone she gets when she's about to explain something to you. You're too young to know if you're gay or not. Do you care if I am? I asked her. Of course I care, she said. I mean, I don't care, but I care about you. And if you were gay, then I'd be okay with it. Well, I am, I said. I hope you're really okay with it and not just saying that. My father still hadn't said anything. He had this look on his face like he was trying to figure out a joke someone had told him and that he knew should be funny but didn't understand why. Dad? I said. Are you alright? What? He said. Then he shook his head like he was trying to clear it. So this gay thing, he said. Is that why you, well, you know. He waved his hands in the air like he couldn't think of the words he needed. I shook my head. Not really, I said. It's part of it, but it's not everything. I think we have a lot to talk about, Cat Poop said, saving me. I know you all probably have questions for Jeff, and I know there are things he wants to tell you. So let's just start at the beginning and go from there. And that's what we did. For about 4 hours. I can't even remember everything we talked about. There was some yelling, a little crying, and finally, a big family hug, which is a miracle all on its own. By the time my parents left, I think they were starting to understand that this wasn't just some phase I'm going through or something I'm doing to get back at them. They don't get it all yet. Then again, neither do I. I know, I'm just messing around. Yeah, I knew you were. I knew you were, Lion Lane. Day 44. I had a dream about Sadie last night. She and I were walking on a beach, talking about whatever we wanted and having a good time. Then all of a sudden she ran into the ocean. I thought she was playing, so I followed her. She was laughing and kept looking back to see if I was behind her. She started swimming and I swam after her. She swam way out and I was afraid we were going too far. I kept calling for her to slow down, but she wouldn't. I couldn't keep up with her, so I stopped swimming and let her get ahead. Finally, she stopped and turned around. She called for me to come out to where she was, and I did. When I got there, she said, "Catch me if you can," and dived down. I watched her swim beneath me. The water was clear, and I could see her kicking her legs hard and going deeper and deeper down to where the water turned dark blue. Her hair was floating out around her head, and silver bubbles were coming from her mouth. I took a deep breath and dived after her, trying to catch her. She turned in the water and waved at me, trying to get me to come deeper. My chest was starting to burn because I was running out of air, and I pointed to the surface to tell her we should go up. She shook her head, and I saw her laugh underwater. Millions of bubbles shot out of her mouth and surrounded me like a net. I couldn't see. Then I felt a hand grab my foot and pull me down. I tried to swim up, but that hand was strong. It was Sadie's hand. Through the bubbles I saw her dragging me into the dark water. She was laughing and laughing. I realized that she wanted to keep going, and she wanted to take me with her. I kicked as hard as I could, trying to get her hand off my foot. I just kicked and kicked while I clawed at the water. Finally I got free and started to shoot toward the surface. I could see the light shining down and I reached for it. I looked down once more and saw Sadie looking up at me. Her face got smaller and smaller as I flew through the water. She wasn't smiling anymore. She was just watching me leave her under the water. I woke up when my head broke through the waves. I was gasping and my chest felt like it was on fire. I looked all around my room, almost expecting to see that I was on a beach and soaking wet. I don't know what the dream means. I don't know why Sadie wanted to try to drown me. I don't know why she laughed at me like she did. I'm just glad I got away from her. Take that dream as you will. But if you don't know the context behind this character, she and Jeff has had some significant moments in this story until a certain event happened. We're not going to talk about it, but if you want to watch the book readings from the very beginning, they're all there. I don't know if they're on the reading every reading stream playlist that I got going on. If part of them is not on there, but if not, I'm going to be adding all 5 parts on there anyway. So, yeah. Anyway. Day 45. One of the best t-shirts I ever saw said, "I was happy once, but I'm better now. I'm going home today." Most people would say that they were happy about that. And I guess I am. I mean, I am. I said goodbye to Martha and Juliet. Martha's staying, for a few more weeks anyway. Then she's going to live with her aunt. She still isn't saying much. I think they're keeping her on the wonder drug. Poor kid. She definitely got a bad deal. Juliet is leaving next week. It turns out her parents are super religious. Juliet told me they think she's possessed by demons. Seriously. They believe in that kind of stuff. They want her to let the people at their church do some kind of healing ritual for her. She says she's thinking about it. It's weird, but I used to think she was the craziest one in here. Now she seems kind of normal. I don't know if she's gotten less crazy or if I've gotten more crazy. Probably it's a little of both. Oh yeah, then there's Squirrel. I still don't get him. Juliet said she'll find out what his story is and let me know. She won't, though. She'll forget about me as soon as she's out of here. Maybe even as soon as I walk out of the door. She doesn't want to remember, and I can't blame her. She'll probably convince herself we were all ghosts or a dream. I wonder how many of us there are all over the world. How many kids in how many hospitals? How many Alices and Bones and Juliets and Rankins? How many Sadies and Marthas and Squirrels? How many Jeffs? And I wonder how many of us get out. I wonder how many of us are happy. I had my last session with Cat Poop. I mean, Dr. Katsrupus this morning. Only it turned out it wasn't my last one. I'll be seeing him once a week. At least for a while. I'm okay with that. He said that I have to remember that even though I've changed a lot in here, I'm going back to a world that hasn't changed. That's going to be the hardest part, I think. Seeing all the people who were in my life before. They don't know what's happened to me. They're going to expect to have the same old Jeff back. But I'm not the same old Jeff. I hope they're ready for that. I hope I'm ready for that. I'm still kind of a mess, but I think we all are. No one got it all together. I don't think you ever do get it totally together. Probably if you did manage to do it, you'd spontaneously combust. I think that's a law of nature. If you ever manage to become perfect, you have to die instantly before you ruin things for everyone else. It kind of feels like the last night of summer camp. For a couple of years I went to this place called Camp Mikigwani. For the 2 weeks I was there, I hated everything about it. The swimming, the campfires, sing-alongs, the stupid crafts, the other kids, everything. Then the night before my parents came to pick me up, I'd start to wish I could stay for another 2 weeks. One summer I even asked my parents if I could. They said yes, and for about 3 seconds I was really happy. But as soon as they drove away, I started hating the place again and was miserable for another 2 weeks. Part of me wants to stay here where people sort of understand me, but I know I have to leave. My vacation is over, and it's time to let some new campers in. I haven't decided on what to do about the alley thing yet. Maybe I'll call her, or maybe I'll send her here to talk to Dr. Katsrupis for 45 days. I don't think she'd hold out as long as I did. I bet he'd break her in 2 weeks. She can't keep a secret. Not that there are any secrets to keep anymore. I think I've told all of mine. Well, most of them. The big ones. You've got to keep some stuff to yourself, otherwise there's no reason for people to get to know you. I almost forgot. It's Valentine's Day. Allie and I always used to give each other silly valentines, mostly to make us feel better about not having real valentines to give them to, but also because we really do care about each other. Did care? Do care? I don't know. This will be the first year we haven't done it. But what if I was going to give her a valentine? What would it say? Maybe something like this. I'm sorry I couldn't talk to you. I'm sorry I hurt you. I didn't mean to. You're my best friend and I want you back. I know I'm sort of a different person now, but I hope you'll give me a chance. I have a lot to tell you. Love, Jeff. I could never send that. It's too sappy. Even worse than hugging. Still, Allie kind of falls for that sort of thing. Maybe it would work. Or maybe she would just tear it up. I really don't know anymore. I wonder if my parents would think it was weird if I asked them to stop at the card store on the way home. Note from the author. The wonderful thing about books is that there are always new readers coming along to discover them. In the 10 years since Suicide Notes came out, not a week has gone by that I haven't received at least one message from a reader. Often they tell me that reading the book made them feel less alone. This makes me happy, but it also makes me sad because it means that the issues that prompted me to write the book in the first place still exist. When I was a teenager in the 1980s, there were very few young adult novels that mentioned gay people at all, let alone portrayed us in a positive light. When we were the subjects of stories, they were always what we referred to in the writing world as problem novels. Being gay was a problem to be overcome or solved, and usually the gay person suffered terribly because of being gay. I wanted to write a book that took the concept of problem novel and did something different with it. I wanted it to be funny, but in a dark way, because my own way of dealing with difficult situations is to look for the humor in them. My personal belief is that if you can laugh at something, it makes it less frightening. And so I came up with a story about a boy who tries to kill himself and instead ends up in a psychiatric ward where he has to think and talk about why he did it. He doesn't want to think or talk about it, and basically does everything he can to not think or talk about it. Not everybody liked what I did. Some people felt I shouldn't have written a story in which a gay character feels bad about being gay and tries to kill himself. The thinking was that as writers, we should be writing positive, uplifting stories where characters celebrate being gay and show that gay people have happy lives. The thing is, I think Suicide Notes is a positive story. I think Jeff is very funny, in that he deals with accepting himself the way that I and a lot of other people have dealt with accepting ourselves, which does not always happen easily or neatly. Also, at the time that Suicide Notes was written, gay kids were committing suicide or attempting suicide at alarming rates. For me, the book reflected what was going on in the world in a very real way. Unfortunately, it's still going on. Gay teens are still committing suicide or attempting suicide at rates 3 times that of non-gay teens. They're still experiencing serious depression at rates much higher than average. Things have come a long way since I wrote the novel, but we still have a very real problem when it comes to gay young people and mental health. Jeff's story is still one that needs to be told and heard. As I said earlier, many of the messages I receive from readers tell me how much they relate to the story. Others ask questions. And because I get the same questions about the book over and over again, I thought it would be fun to answer the 5 most common ones here, as they provide a look into how the book was written and what happened after it came out. Warning, if you have not read the book yet, there are some spoilers here. Alright, and it's a good thing he gave that warning. So, if you haven't read the book, if you haven't read or heard heard or listened to an audio of the book, yeah. Hey, Nate, how you doing tonight? I'm doing pretty well, thank you for asking, but how are you doing tonight? Here were the top 5 most frequent questions. Question 1. Did you ever try to kill yourself? No, I did not. And to be honest, it's something of a miracle that I didn't, because I was a very unhappy person. During the years between ages 10 and 17, I almost never left my room except to go to school. And school was a miserable place for me, because I was tormented relentlessly by people who suspected I was gay. Every day I waited for the school bus with a knot in my stomach, because I knew that someone would say something or do something to single me out and make me feel bad. Every day I tried to avoid certain people who seemed determined to seek me out just to tell me how much they hated me. And every day there was reminders that, according to my peers, there was something wrong with me. I remember once looking at a class roster on the teacher's desk and discovering that someone had written the word faggot next to my name in red marker. The teacher had not bothered to scribble it out or type up a new sheet, which made me feel like she agreed or at least condoned someone calling me that word. I went through every day at school like that, then went home and shut myself in my room to escape into books. I had no one to talk to about what was happening, and was too ashamed to do it even if I had, and so I kept it all inside. I think the only reason I didn't consider suicide was because I didn't want the people who were constantly harassing me to win. Also, some part of me knew that someday I would get away, which I eventually did. But I also know that I am one of the lucky ones who survived. I easily could not have. Question 2. Did you ever spend time in a psychiatric ward or go to therapy like Jeff does? I did not ever spend time in a psychiatric ward. However, I did spend several years in therapy with a psychiatrist as an adult, and Dr. Katsopoulos in the novel might possibly bear a passing resemblance to the doctor I saw. Jeff's reactions to Dr. Katsopoulos also might be based on my initial feelings about going to therapy. Fortunately for both Jeff and me, we discovered that sometimes talking about your feelings helps you understand yourself. Occasionally, people who have spent time in psychiatric wards still point out to me that certain things that happen in the novel probably wouldn't happen in real life. This is true. Sometimes in fiction we have to bend reality a little bit to make our stories work. Hopefully I got most of it right. Question 3. How much of what happens to Jeff is based on your own experience? Although I did not attempt suicide or spend time in a psychiatric ward, the incident that causes Jeff to do what he does is based on something that happened to me. When I was in college, I had a girlfriend. The reasons for this are complicated. But the short version is that I went to a Christian college where being an out gay person was not an option. I developed a close friendship with a girl, which she assumed meant we were dating, and I couldn't figure out how to tell her that this was not really the case. The bigger problem was I was very much infatuated with one of her best friends, a boy, and because we all spent a lot of time together, it became a big problem for me. It was practically difficult when he and I spent time together alone, which we did because we both happened to be English majors and in some of the same classes. Nothing ever happened between us, but it was emotionally very stressful for me. It was the first time that I developed an emotional and romantic attraction to a specific person and had to confront the feelings I'd had and ignored for years. Unlike Jeff, I was never brave enough to tell the young woman what was going on with me, but Jeff's relationship with Allie is very much based on this experience, as I imagine what might have happened if I had. Question 4. What do you think happens when Jeff sees Allie again after he gets out? Readers often tell me that they want a sequel to the novel, in which we find out whether Jeff and Allie are able to repair their friendship and move on. I will most likely never write that book. Why? For a couple of reasons. When you create characters that people strongly relate to, like Jeff, readers often come up with their own versions of what happens to the character after the book ends. Then no matter what you write in a sequel, you end up disappointing someone because the story doesn't go where they think it should or want it to. The biggest reason that I'm not sure it matters what happens with Jeff and Allie, the important thing is that Jeff has gotten to a place where he wants to try, where he is willing to talk about what happened in an honest way. What happens once he does is not really as interesting, at least not to me. I'd rather have readers think about what they believe happens when Jeff and Allie see each other again. You gotta respect that answer. Because, think about it like this. Look at how many times we've had books, and then we're thinking like, okay, well, I want to see a sequel to this book because I want to see how it keeps going. But then there's going to be those moments where you'll read a book, and you'll be like, well, it's either going to be like, well, I love this book, but my main problem is I don't like what they did with this bit here, or that character here, or this, or like, just so many things to try to go around. If you kind of think about it, if you haven't seen this movie, I'm just going to say this real quick. In the movie Misery from Stephen King, which I happen to have a book of, by the way, there is, and it's also in the movie too, if you've seen the movie or not, real quick. Pretty much, the character that is Paul Sheldon, I believe that is his name, he wanted, basically, he, finishes up a book, and he celebrates it, but then as he's driving on the road, something happens, and he falls, and he crashes into a ditch, which knocks him out. Kathy Bates' character, Annie Wilkes, comes in, and she picks him up and carries him to her house, and she goes on about how she's this big fan of this character known as Misery. And then she keeps this facade up, but the very first moment when you realize something's up is the moment where Paul Sheldon wakes up in his bedroom, and the first thing you see is an up-close shot of Annie Wilkes' face in a serious serious emotion, but she's also I just lost my train of thought. Damn it. Um uh I just lost my train of thought just now. What was I talking about? Um Shit. Hmm. Well, it'll probably come back to me. Oh yeah, now I know what I was talking about. She has this up close look on her face, and she just she just gets upset with him because of this decision that he made on a character on Misery in the book. And she was not having any of it, and she ultimately decided, I want you to burn this book down, and you're going to restart this book right. You're going to restart this book from the beginning, and you're going to set it right. Yeah. And then the rest the rest of that movie is history. Movie and book. Alright, so I will say if you have not seen part 4 of this reading of Suicide Notes, pause the video now, and once I give the thumbs up, then you can unmute, alright? Mute right now. Okay, I'm going to assume that you guys are muted. Those who have not read this book are muted, so I'm going to ask the question. Question 5. Why did you have to kill Sadie? I know, and I'm sorry. I love her too. She's probably my favorite character in the book. Maybe one of my favorite characters I've ever written. I knew from the first time she showed up that she wouldn't live to the end, and it was so hard to write her knowing that. But it was also the most fun to write her because she's so Sadie. I'm glad so many readers love her as much as they do. I wish she'd had an easier life. And now for a very important message. If you need to talk, the issues that Jeff struggles with are ones that many of us struggle with. Even though there are more understanding and acceptance, there is more understanding and acceptance for LGBTQ people now. That does not mean that it's easy for everyone. If you are dealing with understanding your feelings or need assistance in some way, there are people who want to help you. Many schools now have programs for LGBTQ students, and there are community centers in many cities where you can find information and support. If you do not have any of these resources available on you, or if for any reason don't feel comfortable or safe contacting someone locally, there are numerous groups that you can reach out to online. Pressing that quick. There are numerous groups of people that you can reach out to online through messaging or on the phone. One of the oldest is the Trevor Project, which has been around since 1998. You can connect with them in several different ways. Online at www.thetrevorproject.org, Trevor Lifeline 866-488-7386, available 24/7, 365 days. This number will connect you immediately with someone who can help. Trevor text start to 678-678, available Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. This text-based service allows you to communicate through messaging. And Trevor Chat, available through the Trevor Project website. This instant messaging service allows you to chat in real time with a counselor. It's available 7 days a week, 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. About the author. Michael Thomas Ford is the author of numerous works for both adults and teens, including some of the earliest books about the HIV/AIDS crisis and several books about the LGBTQ community. His most recent novel, Lily, was a Tiptree Award longlist title and a finalist for the Lambda Literary Award and the Shirley Jackson Award. He also authors a series of novellas starring some of the most popular contestants from RuPaul's Drag Race, including Sharon Needles, Manila Luzon, and Jinkx Monsoon. He has a lot of tattoos and dogs and a beard. And that, my friends, was Suicide Notes. To say I absolutely loved reading this book is an understatement. I would highly recommend this book to anybody that feels insecure about themselves, because this is about a book. This is a book about a young boy who is trying to figure out how he got into this hospital, that area of the hospital that he's in, amongst all types of things. But I recommend this book wholeheartedly. And at first, when I first read the book, and then as I kept going along, the book became more and more hard, like a bit more tricky to give a rating on. And when I say rating, I mean MPAA rating, because that's what I like to do once I've read books. But I think I might know what rating I'm going to give it. You guys have to wait and see tomorrow, because it is currently almost 2:30, and I'm going to need to go to bed soon. But in any case, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for me here tonight. Hold on a second here. Let me get something. Oh, wait a minute. Where did they go? Oh, they're right there. Hold on a second. I gotta get them because they all fell down. Because I accidentally left my room open, my door open one time, and one of my dogs came in and just trashed the place a bit by herself, and oh my god, it's crazy. But in any case, try not to hurt myself in this situation. Right? But in any case, I will be doing a community poll, but I do want to show these off to you to choose what you guys would like for me to read next. We have what would be continuing the trend of the LGBTQ community. We have Hell Followed With Us. 16-year-old trans boy Benji is on the run from the cult that raised him. The fundamentalist sect that unleashed Armageddon and decimated the world's population. Desperately, he searches for a place where the cult can't get their hands on him, or more importantly, on the deadly bioweapon they infected him with. When Benji is rescued by a ragtag group of teens from the local Atkinson LGBTQ+ Center, affectionately known as the ALC, they offer him shelter as long as he can control the monster within and use his power to defend them. Their leader, Nick, is a gorgeous, autistic, and a deadly shot, and Benji soon discovers that he has a hidden agenda and more than a few secrets of his own. So that's this one. The second option is Darius the Great is Not Okay. The back of the book says, Darius Kellner speaks better Klingon than Farsi, and he knows more about Hobbit social cues than Persian ones. He's a fractional Persian, half his mom's side, and his mom's side, and his first ever trip to Iran is about to change his life. Darius has never really fit in at home, and he's sure things aren't going to be the same in Iran. His clinical depression doesn't exactly help matters, and trying to explain his medication to his grandparents only makes things harder. Then Darius meets Sohrab, the boy next door, and everything changes. Soon they're spending their days together, playing soccer, eating falude, and talking for hours on a secret rooftop overlooking the city's skyline. Sohrab calls him Dariush, the original Farsi version of his name, and Darius has never felt more like himself than he does now that he's Dariush to Sohrab. By turns hilarious and heartbreaking, Adib Khorram's brilliant debut is for anyone who's ever felt not good enough, then met a friend who makes them feel so much better than okay. That's book number 2. The third option is The Way I Used to Be. The back of the book says, Eden was always good at being good. Starting high school didn't change who she was. But the night her brother's best friend rapes her, Eden's world capsizes. What was once simple is now complex. What Eden once loved, who she once loved, she now hates. What she thought she knew to be true are now lies. Nothing makes sense anymore, and she knows she's supposed to tell someone what happened, but she can't. So she buries it instead. And she buries it the way she used to be. Told in 4 parts, freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year, this provocative debut reveals the deep cuts of trauma, but it also demonstrates one young woman's strength as she navigates the disappointment and unbearable pains of adolescence, of first love and of first heartbreak, of friendships broken and rebuilt, all while learning to embrace the power of survival she never knew she had hidden within her heart. That one's option number 3. And now for option number 4, which I think will probably be the one to win the poll. Maybe. You never know. The official Five Nights at Freddy's movie novelization. The back of the novel says, "Can you survive 5 nights?" The film follows a troubled security guard. The terrifying horror game phenomenon becomes a blood-chilling cinematic event as Blumhouse, the producer of Megan, The Black Phone, and The Invisible Man, brings Five Nights at Freddy's to the big screen. The film follows a troubled security guard as he begins working at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. While spending his first night on the job, he realizes the night shift at Freddy's won't be so easy to make it through. Yep. Yeah. So, these are your 4 options. Once more, they are Hell Followed With Us, Darius the Great Is Not Okay, The Way I Used to Be, and Five Nights at Freddy's. Tomorrow, I will be sure to, I'll probably do it right after the stream, actually, so that way it's a bit out of the way. But yeah, so if you guys want to vote for one of these 4 books, I'll be doing a poll at some point. If not right now, it will probably be done in the morning. But in any case, but for now, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream there, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the book that was Suicide Notes. And until next time, with more Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney tonight, this is Forrest Walpole, signing off.